Give him a hand, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me this week. I am honored. You guys were cool. I hope to see you again. If you want to donate to the factory, feel free to do that. That was a joke. About a year ago, I was sitting on my couch watching ESPN, best channel on TV. Scottie Pippen used to dominate on ESPN. And I was watching this big dude by the name of Lomas Brown. Lomas Brown used to play offensive tackle for the Detroit Lions. And I was watching him. He was an analyst on ESPN, and he was just being crazy. He was on national TV admitting that he purposely got his quarterback hurt. In 1994, and you wonder why the Detroit Lions stink. He admitted that he purposely got Scott Mitchell hurt in 1994. He was playing offensive line. He's lined up to protect his quarterback. But at Lambeau Field in 1994, he lined up in order to protect his quarterback, and according to him, he got gator arms on purpose. He said, Scott Mitchell was stinking the game up, so I got gator arms. And I let Sean Jones come around me unimpeded, and he blindsided my quarterback. And Scott Mitchell broke his finger, had to come out of the game. And I'm like, and he was bragging about it on TV. You're supposed to protect him against the enemy. You're supposed to stand up and fight against the opposition. And you brag about the fact that you let the opposition around you unimpeded to your quarterback. And he breaks his finger. And this is where I got mad. He's over 300 pounds, but if I could jump through the TV, I'd pray for him. Yeah, he big. I ain't messing with him. But I got mad when he said this. He said, I'd make it look good. I had some actor in me. I'd make it look good. I had some actor in me. I want to come back here and speak, so I hope I don't get in trouble for this. But I said to myself that day, you big dummy. Man, you shouldn't be bragging about getting your teammate hurt. You're supposed to care. You're supposed to protect him. You're supposed to protect him. You're supposed to protect him. And I can imagine Lomas would say to me, but Keith, I'm just an offensive lineman. And I'd tell him, but you still got influence. I don't get commercial endorsements, Keith. Yeah, but you still got influence. Keith, my name ain't up there with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. Yeah, but you still got influence. Hey, Keith, I'm just a college student. I'm just 18. Yeah, but you still got influence. Keith, I just got saved 2 years ago. Yeah, still got influence. And so I've been asking the question all week, how do you want to die? But I'm going to change the question today. The question today is simple. How do you want others to die? How do you want others to die? King Saul was on Mount Gilboa. They're way up on the mountain fighting. But hear me, King Saul was not up there alone. Lomas Brown was on Lambeau Field, but he was not alone. And hear me, you do not live this Christian life alone. So how do you want others to die? In the text, I see three different types of teammates. And we're going to work with that analogy today, teammates. I saw the basketball team over there. You got teammates. In this Christian life, you have teammates. In the text, I see three different types of teammates. Number one, Just write down battlefield or tweet it or whatever you do. Battlefield, battlefield. Those on the battlefield with you. We see it already in verse 1. It says, now the Philistines fought against Israel and the men of Israel. Who is that? Who's on the battlefield with them? Number one, his army. His army. The men of Israel fled from before the Philistines and fell slain on Mount Gilboa. This army has been fighting with you. Check it out. They fought with you before. Y'all have had victories before. They've locked arms with you before. How dare you not think about their well-being? King Saul, the army is with him. Hey, I've had a group of people that have been with me for 15 months before we had a Sunday morning service. How dare I not think about their well-being? Basketball team, don't you just care about each other on a court? Care about each other the other 6 days. Keep each other accountable. He got the army. The army is his teammates. But also in the text, his armor bearer. His armor bearer. In verse 4, he tells his armor bearer, take your sword and what? Thrust me through with it. Kill me. Kill me. His armor bearer wouldn't do it, so he took a sword and he fell on it. What kind of teammate are you? Basically, you're telling your armor bearer, do something that I'm too punked out to do. You take my responsibility. I'm gonna die, and I want you to feel guilty about it. You kill me. You feel guilty about killing the king. Why? Because I'm wounded. I'm wounded. And guess what? Guess what? May my wounds not hurt my teammates, but may my wounds prosper my teammates. I hope y'all learn from my wounds. His teammates were the army, the armor bearer. And you need to ask yourself, who are the people that are on the battlefield with me? Who are the people that have been ride or die with me? When the sun has come, they've been there. When it's rained, they've been there. When I've made mistakes, they have been there. And you need to take an assessment of how you're treating those people. How do you want them to die? So I'm going to give you a homework assignment. I want you to take your notebook or your phone or store it in your mind and take an inventory. Who are the battlefield people in my life? As I look back over my 18, 19 years, who are the people that have been there with me? They have fought with me. When I didn't believe in myself, they believed in me. Dr. Washington jokes a lot, but when I didn't want to do this, but he believed in me. I remember sitting in your car in the parking lot and you told me you were a preacher. I was like, I ain't trying to hear it. Who are the battlefield people? Who are the battlefield people that even when you mess up, they've been here? Why don't you take an inventory? Why don't you take an inventory and then ask yourself, how do I want them to die? Am I going to get gator arms when it comes to them? Am I going to let the enemy go around me unimpeded to the people who have fought with me? Or do I want them to die winners? I don't know about you, but the battlefield people in my life, I want them at the end of it all. I want them standing up tall winners. I've got a responsibility to them. Second. You got people on the battlefield. Second, just write down bloodline. Those of the same bloodline. If you look in verse 2, it says, then the Philistines followed hard after Saul and his sons. And the Philistines killed Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua were Saul's sons. They got killed. I noticed two things when I read the text. His sons got killed, number one, before him. They got killed before he did. They got killed before him. And man, I'm going to be honest with you, the more I study the text, I almost don't blame him for wanting to take his life. Man, I got a beautiful 15-year-old daughter that I'm greasing up the gun for right now. And if she died before me, man, I don't know how I could take it. I got an 11-year-old son with so much swag. He's got an afro. And if he died before me, man, I don't know if I'd want to go on. I don't know if I'd be here preaching. No parent should have to watch their kids die, should they? His sons died before him, but it gets worse. They died before him, but they died because of him. May that never be said about me. That Jayla, my daughter, died because of me. That Blake, my son, died because of me. I know that you don't have kids. One day you're going to have them. I've been doing ministry now for 20 years, and I have people come in my office dead because daddy wasn't there, because daddy was a buster. I know men that are dead in terms of sexual morality. You know why they're dead? Because daddy introduced them to pornography. True stories. Now they can't stay off the computer. They're dead to sexual morality. They cheat on their wife. Daddy, when they turned 16, gave them their first video. I know women that are dead to sensitivity. They don't even know how to receive love because daddy wasn't there. And any man that touches them now, they melt in his hand. Any man that spits game to them now, they melt. And his sons didn't just die before him, they died because of him. If you read anything about Jonathan, his son, you'd see that Jonathan was brave. You'd see that Jonathan was worthy. But on Mount Gilboa, he died. Why? You want to know why? Because his daddy was a buster. The king of Israel was a buster. And if I could preach another sermon, I would simply title it this: When the leader is a buster. When the leader is a buster on the battlefield, guess what? People die. When the leader is a buster at a university, guess what? Students die. When the leader is a buster at church, if the pastor is a buster, innocent people are going to die. At the crib, if the leader is a buster, people die. I like what Matthew Henry said. He said, those that love their seed must leave their sin. You don't have kids yet, most of you. You will. You might want to start dealing with sin now. Those that love their seed leave their sin. And when I read that, I started thinking, Keith, what sins do you need to deal with? Be honest with yourself. What sins do you need to confess? Because we only got two in Christendom, abortion and homosexuality. Ain't no more. You can hate people. You can hate gay people. You can be down south in good old Dixie and be bigoted. Just don't have an abortion or be homosexual. What sins do you need to deal with? Why don't you take an inventory? Why don't you write down, who are the people in my bloodline? Who are my family members? Who are my family members that I've never shared Christ with? I see them at the family reunion. I see them at Thanksgiving, but I've never shared my faith with them. And why don't you take an inventory and ask yourself, how do I want them to die? Am I going to get gator arms and let the enemy come in on my cousin, on my nephew, on my mom, my dad? Do I care that my dad doesn't know the Lord? I don't know about you, but I want my family members to die with their hands up, winless. You got those on the battlefield. You got those of the same bloodline. And then you finally got those on the bench. I know about that. When I played, I sat the bench. And in this text, we have that. We've got some teammates that are on the bench. In verse 7, it says, and when all the men of Israel who were in the valley, by this time King Saul is dead. By this time his sons are dead. When all the men of Israel who were where? In the valley. They were down here. Where was the battle going on? Up there on Mount Gilboa. So these people are down in the valley. They're on the bench. There ain't no fighting going on here in the valley. But you know what my Bible says? When all the men of Israel who were in the valley, they saw it. Just like when I played basketball, I got to see a good game. Man, I had a good seat. Never played, never broke a sweat, but I could see what's going on. They saw that they fled and that Saul and his sons were dead. They forsook their cities. They kissed their cities goodbye. Then the Philistines, the enemy, came and dwelt in them. So you got some people, they never play the game. They never play the game. They down here in the valley. But guess what? They can see what we Christians are doing up there on the mountain. And what did they see in the valley? What did these bench players see? They saw running. Their king is running. The leader of God's chosen people is running. What else did they see? They saw him take a sword and fall on it. What else did they see? They saw his sons dying down here in the valley. They're not even playing in the game, but boy, they got two eyes they can see. And I'm wondering today, right here in Deerfield, what are people seeing up on the mountain from y'all? Are they seeing y'all up on the mountain singing in chapel, but living any old way? What are the people that work with you on your part-time jobs? They ain't never sung a Chris Tomlin song. They could care less about Jesus. What do they see on the mountaintop from you? Do they see you just talking a good game and getting your butt kicked up there on the mountain? Please hear me. We got victory. And then these people in the mountain, the people on the bench say, shoot, I'm getting out of here. Because if my king getting his butt kicked, I'm probably finna get mine kicked. And they forsook their cities. And I believe today that we got people down in the valley, they're forsaking their marriages down in the valley because, wow, church people forsaking their marriages. Wow. Down here in the valley, I'm going to go on Facebook and I'm going to dog out President Obama because church people go on Facebook and dog him up on the mountain. You got people on your team, they don't love the Lord, they don't know him, but they're watching your little Trinity self. They know you go to Trinity. They want to see you live this thing out the other 6 days. People on the bench, they forsook their cities. In other words, they left their home field advantage. Can you imagine the Bears telling Green Bay, hey, y'all can come in here and have Soldier Field? A couple of years they have done that. Maybe that's a bad example, but they left their home field advantage. And then it said the Philistines came and dwelt where they once lived. The enemy comes and dwells and where you once controlled. And let me just say this. I'd be doggone if I'm going to let the enemy come in my house. I'd be doggone if I'm going to let the enemy come to 3290 Eagle Watch Drive, walk up the steps to my 15-year-old daughter's room. That ain't going to happen. I'd be doggone if I'm going to let him walk up the stairs and come to my son's room up on the top bunk and do whatever he wants. He won't come into my marriage. I'm going to be up on the mountain fighting. But he came in and he took over. And if some of you were true, you know what I learned? I learned this as I was studying. The valley is a perfect place for a battlefield. Biblical days, it was a perfect place for a battlefield. It ain't a perfect place to forsake. Now, if the truth of the matter is, if you were to be honest, you would say, Keith, truthfully, I'm down in the valley. That's just the truth. Hey, I'm in the valley emotionally. If the truth be told, sometimes I feel like I'm going to lose my mind here at Trinity. I'm in the valley. But guess what? You might as well fight. You might as well roll up your sleeves and fight if you're there. I've heard that the valley is a perfect place to fight. If the truth be told, some of you would say, Keith, I'm in the valley spiritually. When they were singing, our God is greater, our God is stronger, truthfully, I'm dry. I haven't felt God in years. Well, brothers and sisters, the valley is a good place to fight. The valley's a good place to get on your face and start fighting. Don't feel good. But don't be runners, Trinity students. Don't run from the enemy. He ain't got nothing on us. He's a punk. This is awesome. I'm glad I get to speak here. I don't want to sound negative. This is awesome, but this has to be the beginning. You look at my wrist, I've got the other 6 days on. That's our tagline at the factory. You know what? Sunday is a joke if we think that's what's going to get it. People in the valley need us the other 7 days. But who is Lomas Brown? Who is Lomas Brown? Who is Lomas? He's just one guy. Wouldn't know him if he walked in here today. He's just one guy. He's just an offensive lineman who gets no glory. But ask Scott Mitchell if one guy's important. Who is King Saul? You're talking years ago. He's just one guy. But ask the armor bearer if one guy's important. Ask that army. Ask Jonathan. Ask Abinadab. Ask Melchishua if one guy's important. One person's rebellion is responsible for what we read about this week. One person's sin. One person's being unfaithful. One person being out of shape in the off season. One person matters. Lomas Brown lined up, and he got his quarterback hurt on purpose. King Saul lined up, and he got his nation hurt because he had no purpose. On purpose, no purpose. You know what scares me? I'm going to come to the end of this game, and my cousins that I saw every year at the family reunion, they're going to say, Keith, boy, you went up to Trinity and preached, but when it came to me, you lived your life with no purpose. You never told me about Jesus. Boy, you planted your church, and on Sunday you sweat, and you preached and you sang. But Keith, when we were at the family reunion year after year after year, you never told me how I could be saved. One of the things that scares me is that my neighbors that jog by my house day after day, we're going to be at the end of the game, and they're going to say, Keith, you knew how to inherit eternal life. When I jogged by day after day, you never once spit at me. You never once hollered at me. You never once told me how I can inherit eternal life. You knew how to have a successful marriage. You never told me what the word said about marriage. And Keith, because of you, I got blindsided. I got broken up. You know what I would hate? I would hate to line up Shelby play after play after play, and after the play is over, I look behind me and my daughter is broken up. She's laying on the field injured, and my beautiful wife is injured, and my neighbors are injured, and the people that I've worked with year after year is injured because one dude wasn't bold enough to tell them about Jesus. How do you want people to die? How do you want your teammates to die? I'm done. But Lomas Brown said this. He said, I'd make it look good. I had some actor in me. I'd make it look good. And I wonder, he was stupid. He gets on ESPN and says that. I don't even know if he works for him anymore. I hope not. He said, I'd make it look good. Man, I would make it look good. I'd have on my pads, you know. I'd look good. I'd have on my cleats. But I had some actor in me. And my question today is that what we doing? Our God is greater. It looks good, don't it? You know, God, but do you care about people? Or are you just an actor? Because y'all in a different world than me. Do you care about gay people? Or you just acting? You got it on. Our God is strong. You can sing the songs. You know the verses. Do you care? Do you care, predominantly Anglo audience, and don't get mad at me, do you care about brothers that look like me outside of here? Do you? Would you speak to a brother on the streets of Waukegan about Jesus? People of color, do you care about people that their skin doesn't look like you, or are we just acting? Because there are people down in the valley, man, they looking at us. How do you want others to die? My prayer, and I've prayed for y'all, is that I'm gone, I'm getting on a flight in a minute. I hope that you get a burden for your family, for those in your bloodline, for those on the battlefield with you, and for those who just sitting on the bench, they ain't even saved yet. How do you want to die? How do you want them to die? Do something about it.